Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Um, yeah, I was looking at the calendar. But I wonder if Steve realized today was Thanksgiving when he signed up.
Oh, of course. I was supposed to be in Arizona. I live in Oklahoma right now, so but they airlined us back last night. So we did 4 legs and then got in last night, and my kids are down in Louisiana with their mom, so it's all good.
Awesome. And I was noticing your email address. Are you a pilot?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm flying business jets right now, and I've flown 747s around the world. Been to Afghanistan, Iraq, Africa, doing some DoD stuff, and then I have 9 jet type ratings, 2 years of flight test experience, and blah blah blah. So yeah, I love flying. I've always wanted to be a pilot, and I love it. So
Do you remember what got you into what started your interest in flying?
that's a good question. I mean, at 3 years old, I knew I wanted to be an astronaut. I would go in the dryer, and my brother would hold the door button so that it could stay open, and then I would just go round and round, pretending it was like a centrifuge. So, and then we'd set up like a spaceship thing in the basement on the chalkboard, and so I don't know. I've always had the bug, and it's been a blast doing it. So.
I've heard stories of people putting their brothers in the dryer. I never quite realized there might be a willing participant.
Right. Yeah. Usually, like I was the one who was like, "Come on, help me out."
What do you do about? I guess there is a no heat setting, so that would answer that. Either that or is really good practice for reentry. One of the two.
Exactly.
So how many hours of flying do you have?
It's around 12,000 hours.
Yeah, I think I have about 20 in a Cessna 172. So.
Oh, that's outstanding. That's good. So are you going to get your private soon? You already soloed?
I have not soloed. I'm still working on the landings.
Okay.
Yeah, until I master the landings, I think I'll stick with the dual instruction. But
oh, that's awesome because there's no reason to. And then if there's a space, like you got to hit it hard, otherwise you literally just lose what you've done before. So, I mean, if you hit it hard like every day, you could have your solo at less hours. But if you're working and have other responsibilities, then like if you wait 2 weeks, then you kind of already forgot what you did. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of put everything on hold back in March when they started the lockdowns. It was kind of a hobby of mine, and then I have my 80-year-old in-laws live with me, so they're kind of in the high risk category. So
Right.
it just didn't make sense to, it kind of made
Yeah.
sense to turtle down. And my plan is after this COVID thing gets over with, to take a month off of work and then just hit it hard, like you say. And I think that'd probably be safer and better anyway.
Exactly. Well, it sounds like a smart decision, and you got to put family first. And yeah, let's get through this thing safely.
But I guess in terms of, you're in an enclosed space, literally sharing the same recycled air with a bunch of other humans for hours and hours and hours at a time. How do you stay safe?
So we have a BioProtect where I work at JetLink, so it actually seals it safe for 90 days, and then we spray after every live leg where we have passengers, and then we wipe down, and then actually even in airliners, the air is replaced every 2 minutes. So like every air molecule in the cabin literally is new every 2 minutes because there's a constant outflow valve, and then there's bleed air being pumped in that goes through the air cycle machine. So it's actually pretty safe. Like I said, I had 2 legs of sitting in the back as an airline passenger yesterday, and it was safe. Everybody has to wear a mask. unless you're actively eating or drinking. And so it's actually remarkably safe. Like in Phoenix, the restaurants were all closed. There was like 2 restaurants open, and they had like 4 things on the menu. But I mean, it was, yeah. I believe it's pretty safe.
And you say the air is recycled every 2 minutes. Is that air like coming from outside the plane and it's being compressed into the cabin, or is it like from bottles, or how does that work?
Right. So the engines bring it comes off the 3rd stage of the engine, so it's bleed air, and then it goes through the air cycle machine, and then it gets put into the cabin, and then there's constantly air being pushed out through the outflow valves. So you're getting literally fresh air from outside via the engines.
I, if you have such a source of positive airflow, and you have the valve on the outside, how come, the cabin pressure can't be like kept steady? I mean, the whole air popping sensation. What's sort of the limiting on that? Is that like the pressure on the structure, or um, I guess I'm just wondering. It seems to me that why not allow for the pressure remain like at sea level inside the cabin through the entire flight?
Sure. So then, yeah, it's like 14 psi for sea level, and then so if we're at 40,000 feet, the cabin inside, you feel it's about 6,800 feet. Um, and exactly, it's just the differential on the structure. So they just want to keep that differential lower. So, I mean, if you were at sea level, it'd be that more difficult on the structure.
That makes sense. And can I ask, how did you find out about my project?
Oh, of course. I'm a big fan of Blue Origin, and I saw it on LinkedIn, and off a Blue Origin employee. I was like, oh man, that sounds really cool. And yeah, tell Mr. Bezos that I'm his man to send to the moon. I would love to go fly to the moon. I got a master's in geological engineering, just to check the box, have the ticket. A big hero of mine is Jack Schmidt. He was the first scientist to go to the moon on the last mission, and instead of being a test pilot. And so he was a geologist, and of course he found that orange rock. What do they call it? Chalktolite. And basically, it suggests the moon once had an active magnetic field. And then back, when I was like 13, Jim Irwin, who also walked on the moon, came and talked to my school, and I got to talk with him and get my picture taken. And man, I've just always been fired up about going to the moon. So, and then I'm like, my focus in my master's was in situ resource utilization on the moon, and basically drilling down, and you have like Bangalore, just like Saving Private Ryan, where they blow up the beach. They just put like an explosive tube with special epoxy resin on the outside, and then exact depth based on the density, and then you explode it, and then you have basically instant cave or shelter. It's a little more complicated than that, but anyway, you got meteorite protection, solar radiation protection, and you didn't have to bring any of the material yourself except for the Bangalore tube and the epoxy.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Is there any risk of the kind of the ejecta, the material that kind of gets exploded away, kind of orbiting about the moon? I mean, since there's no atmosphere to kind of slow things down, and you have like these really light particles with high energy behind it.
Well, they've already used grenades on the moon and set up laser stuff. They set off grenades. No, that's not a problem. But there's actually not much that will actually lift off. because you're at a depth of about 3 meters. You like just drill down and go horizontally, and so that is enough mass to buffet the explosion underneath. So you're basically making a subterranean tunnel.
And so is it a kind of a situation of it just compressing the material around it, or maybe creating a big gas pocket and there'll be like a bump on top of the moon afterwards? Or I mean, like, what's going on from a physics standpoint?
Right. So basically, it's just the explosive pushes out circularly, making a tunnel, and then the epoxy kind of seals it off. And then when there's some finishing touches, so it'll barely look like a bump, or you won't see much on the surface.
That's pretty neat. Oh, I know the current NASA plans are to put people back on the moon. Pretty much everybody thought that was ambitious to begin with. The funding's not going through. A new administration's coming in with their own priorities. What is your kind of gut feeling on the next time we'll actually see people on the moon?
Yeah, good question. I am so excited that we have Jeff and Elon, because they are motivated. They understand that we're building a road to space. We want millions of people living and working in space, and basically have manufacturing up there, and then more livable conditions on Earth. And so they're very motivated, and they're dedicated financially, and they have the financial means. So that's very hopeful for me. And then, oddly enough, the second component that's hopeful is you want a space race like we had back in the 60s with Russia. And so now China, of course, they have a rover on the far side of the moon, not the dark side, but the far side. And they're sending a lunar sampler mission. They already sent it recently, and so they're going to bring rocks back. They'll be the third nation to bring rocks back from the moon. And so anyway, that from a national security point of view, that's a good catalyst to motivate some more action. So I think it may be scaled down, and it may even be unofficial, but I think there'll be some ongoing operations. And I'm hopeful, to be a part of it.
Yeah. What are sort of what would be your pathway to become part of it? I mean, like, how do you go from where you are to actually participating in the sort of the space endeavors?
That's a great question. That's the exact same question I asked back at university, CU Boulder, the Buffaloes. And you're there, you have skiing, you have rock climbing. And then, of course, I was doing aerospace engineering and trying to balance it all. But one of my space classes, I had someone come in from NASA, and that's exactly what I asked. And the guy was like, you know what? Pick something that you love, try to be the best at it, and make it operational. But it's not like becoming a doctor or a lawyer. There's no clear path to astronaut. It's basically, it's almost like trying to aim towards the sun and you can't quite see it. It's kind of cloudy and you kind of go that general direction. There's no clear path. And then, of course, the best thing to become like someone you want to be like is to get to know them or study their background. So I've studied astronaut backgrounds and have the pleasure and opportunity to, meet and talk with astronauts over the years. And basically, man, there's, stay positive, and there's a big world. It's a huge pie. There's plenty for everybody, and just keep improving yourself. Be the best you can be. Stay operational. and but have fun in the meantime, because it might not happen. You might not get to be a senator. It's not easy. So have fun and enjoy the journey. But that being said, I've worked hard to get the aerospace engineering degree, the master's in geological engineering, just like Jack Schmidt. Did all that research on lunar resources. So basically, of course, the moon's 1/6 the gravity. So we have water, ice there, and we can turn that into rocket fuel. And then, of course, electrolysis gives us oxygen to breathe. So that really opens the solar system for more cost-effective fuel to reach out. A lot of that's on the south side. And then also there's, minerals. China's looking at harvesting some minerals and mining as well. So there's a lot going on there, and it's quite a bit of motivation internationally. Does that answer your question?
It does. I think you have a key point there. You got to really enjoy the process, and if you enjoy the process, then it's great if you get where you're going, but if you don't, it was still worthwhile. It's kind of what I took away from that.
That's exactly right. And yeah, I mean, once you're on the top of the peak, I've mountain climbed, I've scuba dived a bunch, skydived. Once you're on the top of the mountain, it's kind of like, okay, we made it. Now we got to get back down. So the journey really is quite a bit of the enjoyment. And but I'm punching my tickets everywhere I can, working hard, and it's basically once you have punched your tickets, it's basically who you know and timing. So it just comes down to luck. So.
Yeah. I mean, there were.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say there probably were a lot of qualified astronauts that through randomness didn't quite get their chance to fly.
Well, that's it. And even once you get to selected, then you go through 2 years of training, and then you may not fly for 10, 15 years, if ever. I've applied to NASA. I applied to NASA when I was 11 years old. I've applied like 5 times now. I got the highly qualified, so I was down to the last 400, but I did not get an interview. And then I'm in this round now, but they've postponed it due to COVID. So I'm trying the traditional NASA route, but man, I would love to just, be a Blue Origin astronaut and be sent there by Mr. Bezos, and he can change my name to climate change or whatever he wants. Or he can make me part AI. Like I could put inject fluid in one eyeball so that you can see and videotape it all. I mean, I'll do whatever.
What do you think it would be like going on the moon? I mean, like, which aspects of it are you really looking forward to, and kind of which ones do you think it might be a challenge?
Well, I've always wanted to be an explorer and to push the envelope. And I think it's important for humanity to be interplanetary. So, I mean, it would just be an amazing honor and privilege to be, part of that head of the spear, and to kind of establish international law and international treaties and the use of resources. It's almost like setting up a new world. Even like Elon said, once we get to Mars and have a colony, it's going to be a completely separate government or laws from Earth. So I'm not sure what he's planning to set up, but there's some interesting kind of paradigms there.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons the U.S. did so well um, is that only the people who were able to make it here got here and kind of worked. And whenever we have like a Mars colony, it's going to be a huge filter in terms of it really takes somebody very ambitious, capable, what have you, to actually get there. I mean, it seems like it might be a really dynamic society at the beginning. Um, I mean, do you think that might be the case?
Yeah, I mean, today's Thanksgiving. We have, of course, the Pilgrims came. They didn't quite know how to set it up, and they had a cold winter and new diseases. And thank goodness the Native Americans, helped them out, basically saved them, and taught them how to fish, taught them how to grow corn. Putting the fish down in there to help for nutrients. But the key was the first colony, I guess, just set up and said, okay, each family gets their land, and then based on your productivity, you reap the reward, and then you can sell it back. And so it became very productive and fruitful, based on that system of if you work really hard, you get rewarded. And then that's when they had the first Thanksgiving. And of course, they were already friends with the Native Americans. And, obviously there's a lot of, it was not perfect by any means, but I think having ownership and then new opportunity for whatever government they set up on Mars or the Moon, I think it's going to be, it has great potential and possibility.
Would it surprise you that most of the non-space people I talk to don't know that we're planning to send people to the moon?
Oh man, that frustrates me because I ask my friends and I'm like, they have no clue. It's like, and that's all I'm so keyed into it. I track it every day, and I'm like, all right, this. Yeah, it does not surprise me, and I think it would be very helpful to somehow make it more streamlined and make it more aware, make the public more aware of what we're doing and get behind it. So yeah, that's kind of a frustration.
Yeah, I mean, I get the feeling that most people's reaction to space is, what does it have to do with me? It's for rich people. It seems like a waste of money whenever we have all those problems. And I was wondering if you get the same sense, or,
Oh, absolutely. And almost the second Apollo mission, it became routine and boring. And like, okay, how do we spice this up? And it's almost like you have to have space sports and fancy broadcasters or something to keep people interested. But the technological spin-offs and the economic benefit is just tremendous. And I know NASA tries to communicate that, but frankly, sending Tom Cruise up to the International Space Station might be the best thing ever. And then Russia's sending up a female actress or actor and trying to beat him. But basically, commercialization of the International Space Station. You're going to have Tom Cruise up there, and then maybe he can mention the moon mission while he's up there.
Maybe somehow it's linked together, and it's some type of one of these international espionage intrigue type of films.
Well, that would be so cool. You get the Russian female up there, and then she's setting up all these traps, or there's conspiracy or whatever, and then Tom Cruise shows up. It could be like the same movie, or like a sequel.
Yeah, that would be kind of good. Um, I was wondering if you heard about something else called Space Hero. It's a reality TV show that's in the works to do a global contest to identify somebody to send to the International Space Station for 10 days.
I did. I heard about that, and I got on the email waiting list. That's all they could do.
Yeah, I think they're very much in the beginning stages of it. It seems to me right now they're still getting organized and testing the waters, but it's a really interesting shift you have when talking to people. I I've noticed with a few people, it's like, oh, why are we going to space? Why this? And then, you know, oh, how about we send you? And suddenly, oh, but not down without it. There's an idea worth talking about. So I I I think it might be a way to really get a larger group of people excited about it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be a fun series, and it would build awareness internationally for sure. Um, I kind of wanted to go on Survivor, way back when it started, but it'd be a similar kind of potential there as far as reality TV.
Yeah, I see it as some like weird combination between like American Ninja, Survivor, and I mean, there's like so many opportunities in like the the astronaut training and selection process to kind of both educate and get people excited, especially if people are treating the participants as if, oh, I'm really rooting for this particular person. If they could identify with people, it might be like a sports contest type thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you had Krista McAuliffe, of course, school teacher, and selected to go to space, and unfortunately, the mission was not nominal. But they've definitely had folks that represent, the more normal, everyday person, and even sending John Glenn up, as a 70-plus-year-old. I mean, they've made public outreach, and but I think NASA's really trying to tap into, like you said, just getting into the entertainment and the mass footprint um, of movies and TV.
Yeah, um, that's going to be a exciting time. I was, in 1990, you probably would have an easier time explaining to somebody what made people float in space than like email or web shopping or anything like that. And by 2000, pretty much everybody had an email address, and everybody knew what online shopping was, and it was a really transformative decade for the internet and for computing. It feels like with like Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin and Elon with SpaceX and the commercial lunar payload services program participants and China and Russia and everything else, that it really feels like that this decade could be nearly as transformative for space exploration, that in 2030 we'll take some things as being common that we don't even think about now. And I was wondering, do you think we're on a trajectory like that, or do you think the 2030s or the 2020s are just going to be kind of an extension of what we've seen so far, with like we get our hopes up and then we go a different direction, or have we really turned a corner of some type?
That's a very good question. I think the analogous uh, situation with the internet is very applicable, and also the airlines. Like if you look at the beginnings of aviation, 10 years just really transformed quickly. And I really do believe we are on that precipice, like you said, because of Elon and Jeff and and then that potential international space race aspect as well. And there's huge financial benefits to mining on the moon and asteroids, and we've proven the technology. So I think you're right. I think there's potential for 10 years from now where it's just not a big deal. Oh, he went into space, or she went into space, or that kid went into space, or you're going to have artists. It's not just for flight test pilots and scientists, but artists and musicians and athletes. And I think we can't even imagine some of the things that will be discovered because of the whole spectrum of humanity being able to go to space. And then there could be a new business that we haven't even thought of. So there's great potential. There's great activity right now. So my answer would be I'm hopeful, and I see the definite possibility for that same analogous shift change or paradigm change of the internet or the airlines back in the 20s and 30s.
Or another way to look at it, maybe the 2020s is where we transition from mission patches to boarding passes.
I like that. That is slick.
Yeah, 2030s.
Sign me up.
2030s, you talk about mission patches, people have no clue what you're talking about. Like, really?
That's funny.
Can you imagine every airline flight having its own mission patch where like the passengers all get together and design?
That's hilarious. That is so insightful, really, because I've got mission patches of, and then you're right. Then you jump on an airline, it's like, it's so taken for granted, so routine. And that shift is significant. And I think that's exactly what you were talking about in the last question. That sums it up, mission patch to boarding pass. But I'm going to make my own stinking mission patch, even if there isn't one.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate the time. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
That's it. I'm excited to. I've been going to conferences and stuff since about 2000, early 2000. Got to meet with Elon maybe 5 or 6 times and talk with him. And I guess the Starship they applied for an FAA launch approval for suborbital flights out of Texas. So, have you heard anything about that?
And I think next week, well, of course, Elon's weeks sometimes run together, but next week, they might be doing 15-kilometer height flight out of with their SN8 Starship prototype. I'm kind of excited.
Yeah, they already got it stacked.
Got it stacked and ready. They did a static fire a couple of days ago with the 3 Raptor engines. I think they had done one about a week ago, but some of the debris that got kicked off punctured some tubes or something, which they had to replace one of the Raptors. But it's really amazing what's happening in Boca Chica, Texas. Who would have thought that Brownsville would be the gateway to the solar system? I bet you the city planners there then couldn't see that one coming.
I love it, man. It's just like good old cowboy days or something, And do you think? Elon said it's like a 1 in 3 chance that it'll survive, but he's so great about the company culture, the take risk, test, adjust, and then retest rapidly. But so, do you think they're going to be launching space tourism and could try to compete with New Shepard?
Oh, I think they'll pass that completely by. I think you'll see them competing with international airline flights and people getting their suborbital experience just as part of flying between places that they normally fly for vacation and business. Um, I mean, can you imagine going from like Houston to Beijing in like 30 minutes? I mean, you could literally leave like in the evening, attend a lunch business meeting in China, and then leave after that and get back before anybody wakes up. Just
I love it. Yeah.
um, and
Okay.
they're talking about being able to fly the same Starship 3 times a day. Now, if you consider that Starship and a 747 cost about the same, I mean, a 747 makes the trip from, you know, Houston to China like once a day. I mean, so you
Right.
already get the, and you don't even have to worry about in-flight meals or anything. So,
It's too quick.
so exactly, you might need a week to recover afterwards, but that's a different story. So.
Well, I love it. That's exciting, and yeah, I love the 747. It loves to fly fast, and man, we saw the world. That's for sure. We would double cruise sometimes and go sleep in the back or whatever, and you can walk around. But that's exciting, and I hope it's exciting times, and I just want to be a part of it. And right now, I'm technically I'm a check pilot, so I basically give tests to other captains, and then I'm a jet captain, and got the engineering side and stuff that I'm not really using. I've done management stuff as well as being director of operations and working on certification and manuals and all the FAA stuff. Done the flight test, but I'm really trying to make the jump into space and trying to join either SpaceX or Blue Origin. And
Well, it
I
seems
think it's
with
possible.
your experience, though, why not Virgin Galactic? I mean, they're, you got like the White Knight and the Starship. What they call it, Spaceship One, Spaceship
Yeah,
Two.
Spaceship Two. Yeah.
I mean, there you're going to use your flight training and everything, and yeah, I mean, it could be a good middle step.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've applied there, and I don't really know too many folks inside Virgin. I did a 1 year stint with Scaled, and got to know some of those folks, and actually lived out there in Mojave. That was a blast, and Bert was a pretty cool guy. His brother Rick was a cool guy, and I got my commercial glider license there, where the Edwards guys do it, and man, you can just soar forever, and you're doing circles with hawks and catching a thermal. But yeah, I guess it's just one of those who you know things again.
I remember when Peter Diamandis had published that book, How to Build a Spaceship, about the whole
Right.
X Prize competition, and they had like that interview or press release with Burt Rutan and Peter Diamandis, kind of reflecting back over, I guess it was about the past 15 years at that point, or 10 or something like that. And Peter was kind of pointing out the progress that they made, but Bert was like, "You've got to be disappointed." I mean, at the time that they had the X Prize with the winner, I mean, who would have thought 2020 we still don't have flying paid passengers? It's just kind of
It's painfully slow, and it's like, am I just going to die before anything happens?
yeah.
But
The Virgin Galactic flight might be deadly, but not in ways you think. From old age more than anything else.
right, yeah, exactly. And I mean, technically, Virgin's not going above the Kármán line, so I guess they're trying to ride the old Air Force 50-mile space definition, but the international space line is definitely the Kármán line, obviously at 100 kilometers.
might not be the best thing to bring up during an interview. Just saying.
Not with Virgin.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oops.
It's like the PR people, they call it space.
Yeah, you still get the wings from the FAA commercial space office or whatever they're calling it. I
That's
think
right.
so. But it's going to be an amazing time. I think going to the moon though would be way more productive than just being in orbital space. It's like what can you really? I mean, it just feels to me there's like so much to discover on the moon. I mean, there's actual stuff there to do stuff with, as opposed to just going around in circles.
Exactly. And it's such a gateway. 1/6 the gravity. I mean, you're getting such an amazing economic push to explore the whole solar system because you have, quite a bit of fuel resource, rocket fuel and oxygen right there, and then you're, quite a bit less gravity well. So
And
I think it's exciting.
plus, you can build infrastructure and leave it dormant and not have to worry about it. I mean, you put things in orbit, you're constantly, is the orbit decaying? Is stuff going to run into it? Is it tumbling out of control? I mean,
Space junk. Yeah.
you put facilities on and in the moon, and you decide, oh, we're going to have a space recession. I guess you don't decide such things, but it happens, right? You don't all of a sudden go, oh my gosh, we have like this catastrophe, and then you have like the boom of times again, and they kind of, I mean, just seems like, yeah. My plan is to retire on the moon, so I
Outstanding. Well, I'll see you there, brother.
yeah, I'm hoping you'll have to captain the flight that takes us there.
And then you get the space station. I mean, it vibrates quite a bit. It's like a, aircraft carrier. It's an awesome science resource, but I mean, you're like on the peach fuzz of a peach for the Earth. You're not exploring, and it's vibrating, and I would, just die to go there, and it's a good resource. But yeah, the moon is so much better, less interference, and I mean, you can even do some amazing astronomy, and all kinds of stuff can open up.
Yeah, and we don't really fully understand what's there. It's just like we haven't even scratched the surface. We just kind of peered at it from above. So it's gonna be neat. I mean, there could be like those 2001 monoliths all over the moon, and we would have no clue.
Right, exactly. Did it once have an active magnetic field, or what's going on? And even all the meteorites that have impacted, and we could find kind of similar to what we do in Antarctica. But yeah, there's just so many possibilities.
I saw this cute cartoon of the Apollo astronauts landing, and there were these dinosaur bones in a spacesuit, and the astronauts like, Houston, we have a problem. You know, definitely.
I saw that. That cracked me up.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, and I keep thinking about how much of our insight from science and ingenuity and stuff starts out like as just like a flash out of the blue or a gut feeling, something that we think could be true that we invest enough resources in to actually find out or do something with. And I keep thinking, humanity as a whole pretty much experiences so much in common. Like we all have like one geogravity, essentially a 24-hour day, largely one atmosphere of pressure. Um, you know, we have a 365-day year around the sun. We're always about the same distance from the sun. And, I just wonder what kind of mental blinders that's created where we don't have certain flashes of insights or certain gut feelings just because we've sort of, kind of tuned them out or they died too early. And I just kind of looking forward to having humanity experience so many different things and to have ideas that we couldn't even imagine. I, it just seems like that may be the biggest development from space exploration.
I couldn't agree more, and that's what I was saying before. It's like you don't even know what paradigm shifts could happen with getting artists up there, or musicians, or athletes. And like you said, just changing things that we don't even realize that kind of set us down a certain path. And so, I mean, it's going to be something that that's beyond our imagination right now. I think you're right.
Well, Steve, I think I better let you go and go check on the turkey, as it were. So,
man, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. And anyway, take care. And I really hope we both make it to the moon.
Hey, sounds good, Nathan. Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.